peregrine falcon, the fastest animal in the world, with a speed of over 200 miles per hour, revered for its strong hunting ability, athleticism, and versatility, a powerful and formidable hunter able to catch much larger prey than itself. As a symbol, it dates back to the ancient Egyptians, with the sun god Ra depicted with the heads of the peregrine falcon, and Horus, the god of kingship and the sky. It's been used in falconry, the art of hunting wild animals with trained birds of prey, for well over 3,000 years, and became a popular sport among the nobles of Asia, the Middle East, and medieval Europe, first arriving in Britain in the 9th century. A sport of nobles and the upper classes, as much a status symbol due to the time and expense required to train the bird, as a sport and pastime. It reached its peak in the 17th century before the advent of shooting, which led to its inevitable decline. Falconry is a royal sport of princes, kings, and queens. It's also the crest or cognizance of Shakespeare's coat of arms, answering the question, who is shaking the spear? Hello and welcome to Speedy Dispatcher Part 3. My name is Glen Alexander and thank you very much for watching this video. This is the third part in a 4-part series, so if you haven't already seen Part 1 or Part 2, please do go and watch those beforehand, as this is a continuation and builds on from the previous episode. Now, we've finished Part 2 by starting to look at the second part or book of this collection of falconry, certain special points necessary for a falconer or ostricher collected out of the Italian authors. And we also were looking at this poem by Ben Jonson in the first folio. You remember this monument opposite Shakespeare in Westminster Abbey with the greyhounds on top, to the memory of my beloved, the author, Mr. William Shakespeare, and what he has left us. This was the first ever reference to Sweet Swan of Avon, which we explored, but there's some other things going on in this poem too. Now, Shakespeare, capital S, appears 4 times in this poem. Shakespeare, my gentle. Well, we know a different meaning of the use of gentle now with the Falcon gentle. My gentle Shakespeare, of Shakespeare mind. But there's actually another word here that appears 4 times, same number of times as Shakespeare, that is also capitalised, which is muse. Muses. So let us now speak of the order how to mew hawks and of the muses, or muse. Muse, in falconry, is a place where falcons are kept. So we're being wonderfully equivocal here. We also have a few other things, such as this. Casts, who casts to write a living line. Casts in falconry is to eject a pellet of undigested feathers, fur and or bone through the mouth. And I'm sure there's some other falconry terms I'm missing too. So let's talk about muses. There are sundry sorts of mewing, that is to say mewing loose, at large, or at the stock. And I will first speak of this last kind of mewing at the stock or the stone. The place wherein you should mew a hawk at the stone should be a low parlour or chamber upon the ground, far from any noise or concourse of people, and situate towards the north or northeast. Funny, because this is the northern aisle of Westminster Abbey. The falconer may do well to have his bed in the mew. This is an eternal bed. Then take a small cord of the bigness of a bowstring or a little more, put it through a ring and bind it about the stone in such sorts that the ring or swivel may go round. Well, here's a ring for you, the O. Round about the stone without any stop or let, and thereunto tie the lease of the falcon, which may so stand upon the said stone. Remember, whoever is buried underneath that stone is standing upright. This is our little hawk. As before said, because falcons do covet to stand upon a stone, and therewithal you must make her 2, and indeed there are 2 stones to O. Rare Ben Jonson. How interesting. Now, there's a slight discrepancy between the Ben Jonson name of the poem we've seen before and the Ben Jonson spelling of these two stones. You'll notice the stones contain an additional H. Now, this is the figure of addition that we saw last episode, and there's a nice emblem in the Minerva Britannia which does explain this to us, that our eta, our H, is our epsilon in Greek, our E. They are both E sounds, and this is exemplified on the IHS of the John Hunter monument, the first three letters of Jesus in Greek. Your eta, your H, is your epsilon, your E sound. Your H is your E. Now, this is also helpfully explained for us in the element of armories. We have a short table of some hard words and phrases with a few brief notes in the back of the book, and under E for equivocal. An equivocal word is that which containeth more significations than one, or that which in the sense or meaning thereof doth equally extend itself as well to one as to another, as the word arms. And if you have a look at the last line there, you have a capital E and a capital H of your harms, and it does tell you or deceit in the accent, and that H doesn't need to be in the word Johnson. It makes no difference to the pronunciation of the word Johnson, but what it does do is it extends the meaning of the word. It imbues it with more meaning than it otherwise would have, telling you something is going on. Now, the Oreb and Johnson stone, one of them is there on the wall and the other is there. So there's our two stones. It does tell you, therefore let your hawk be mewed in a place that is clean, handsome, and well kept, for she will rejoice and delight greatly in it. And I can think of no better well kept place where she can rejoice in than Westminster Abbey. Sometimes it so falleth that hawks do not mew in time. But if by fortune, we like the word fortune because Edward means fortune, you being forced to do it in another time when the weather is cold and the sun not shining, then must you set your hawks by the fire to weather her. Then the heat of the sun or fire helps to make them mew themselves, and it just so happens we have a fiery lamp there to keep them warm and allow them to dry their feathers. Now, this fiery lamp is very similar to a lamp, a golden lamp that we've already seen on top of the Earl of Oxford's monument to Ben Jonson. And actually, in Cardenas Comfort, we have a letter by the Earl of Oxford to Thomas Bedingfield, of which the first line is, "From my new country, Muses." So the Earl of Oxford very much does know what a muse is. Now, there's something brilliant also going on here, which I love. Sundry gentlemen do use to mew their hawks on the perch, which truly I can most commend. Not be taken till they be somewhat strong and can stand well on their feet, and you must set them upon some perch, and to set her 2 or 3 perches, or 3 perches. Now again, he's playing with spelling here. This is how he spelt it in the third segment there, and to set her 2 or 3 perches. You'll notice the difference of spelling in perches there, and can you see what this absolute genius has done? You have the word pair in perches, and indeed, or in heraldic terms means gold, or 3 perches, you have 3 golden perches, or pairs. Absolute genius. There's also a pair in Shakespeare, if you think about it. A convenient chamber with latticed windows to have the sun shine in upon her if it be possible. Well, we do indeed have some windows, some perches near to each window, one that's sitting on the one. She may have the comfort of the sun. The one should open towards the north, whereby the mew may always receive fresh cold air, and the other towards the east for the heat and comfort of the sun. Just so happens that these are the northern windows, and it is east of our hawk on the floor. 2 windows to the east and the north, as is before declared in. Well, here's one window, and here's another window of particular interest. Now, I originally found these windows because it told me to in the Accedents of Armoury, and here is this escutcheon, shield, is to be noted that my cutter hath done a fault, for he hath set the going out of the field, which nothing ought to do that is movable. So my cutter hath done a fault. Yet workmen that be not skilful in this art do commit the like faults very often, as for example, the glass of the glassed the temple church windows on the north side. So this was what directed me to find these windows in the north side of Westminster Abbey. Now it just so happens there's another fault in this book. You'll notice the page numbers 197, 168, 199. Shall we have a look at what it's telling us? And haggards are they which pray for themselves and do also mew themselves, either in the woods or otherwise at large. To begin with, the nias, the peregrine, which is of great difficulty to bring unto any perfection, you must first feed her in some fresh cool chamber or parlour upon the ground, and the same chamber should have 2 windows, not very large, whereof that one should open towards the north, and that the other towards the east, to take the fresh cool air or the comfort of the sun at her pleasure. These windows must be open, barred, overwrought with lathes or thin boards, so thick that neither your hawks may get out, nor your cat may come in. This is the second book that is referencing these windows, and there are others. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense now when Ben Jonson is saying, "But for thy volume's light, shine forth, thou star of poets." Indeed, well, hopefully these windows are allowing the light to shine through. If we have a look at our first window, this is the window of Edwardus Primus. There's also this wonderful shield here, which we'll look at in a later episode. You have the marble fronting here with lots of coat of arms. Remember, coats of arms are Edward de Vere's chief profession, according to Thomas Bedingfield. And if we have a look at what is emerging from behind the cloth of the woman's dress, we have the lion, the king of the animal kingdom, whose paw is almost on our sweet swan. And if we have a look at our other windows, we have the windows of Edward the Confessor and Edwin Abbas. Now these 3 windows are all from the same family, not just because the person in each of these windows is called Ed, but in the background we have this crowned E. These are the only windows with this crowned E. And you remember we've been talking a lot about this E, this figure of addition, the E that's being pointed to in temples, and temples in Sumerian also means E. Now this wonderful picture also has a lot to tell us. To manhood and reclaim a hawk after the opinion of the Italian falconer, according to the hugeness or condition of his hawk. And if you look at this picture, you'll notice we have our falconer, our falcon, and a T-shaped perch in the right corner. And a large tercel is ever best, the huge condition of his hawk. So if we have a look at this T, well, we've met our T before, what our winged angel is pointing to. Above this lamp, we have our T. Now, if we look at the positioning of the falcon to this T, well, it's kind of telling us the orientation of where this falcon is located. We also have our angel who has a broken finger, or a faulted finger, that seems to be pointing up in this similar direction too. And if we have a look at the window, you will find at the top of the window this magnificent golden falcon. And what's the golden falcon looking down on? The window of Edward the Confessor. Beautiful. And it does tell us in the Book of Falconry, her mew should be a chamber aloft from the ground. Now you'll notice at the top of this window and on the window of Edward the Confessor we have the arms of Edward the Confessor. Now this is drawn and referenced in the Accedents of Armoury on a very, very significant page, which is page 117 or I-17. We have the descending order of the monarchy and then the ascending order of the monarchy. And on page 118 it tells you, and our most dread sovereign, the Queen's Majesty, that now is, of whom I pray God, if it be his will, to send some fruit, as well to the comfort of her Majesty, is the great joy of all her subjects, and stable surety of this realm, or real me. But ere you depart, as I first began, with a shield of antiquity, worthily born of old, for honour's sake, so will I end likewise with a famous scutcheon of renown, whose first bearing did wholly spring of the former cause. I first began, so will I end likewise. It's also worth noting, whose first bearing did wholly spring. Spring in Latin is ver. Now you'll notice there is a Bible verse next to the coat of arms of Edward the Confessor from Ecclesiastes. Now this is actually from Ecclesiastes 10:17. Remember Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. If we have a look in the 1611 King James Bible at this, you will find there are 4 pilcrows, and only 4 pilcrows in this chapter, that bound verse 17. And if we compare these two verses, we have, as our 4 pilcrows, we have whose king is come of nobles versus the King James verse, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles and thy princes eat in due season. And we've had a season, haven't we? The season of ver. Now I did this for you in my video Who's in the Corner, which you can see, but I'm going to extend this now because I didn't give you verse 20. If we have a look at the all-important verse 20, curse not the king, no, not in thy thoughts, and curse not the rich in thy bedchamber. For a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter. Now you'll see we have Psalms 104 referenced in the side notes, and on this grave with our falcon we also have Psalms 104. So there's a strong connection there. If we have a look at Psalms 104 verse 15 in the King James 1611 Bible, then we shall see this: and wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and oil, we've seen some oil already, to make his face to shine, and bread which strengtheneth man's heart. Well, we're having quite a lot of make, because if we have a look at verse 19 from our Ecclesiastes, maketh, made, maketh again, and on the grave we also have made, and that goes back again to our Art of English Poesy, telling us that poetry comes from the Greek meaning make. So this is made. For a good poet, made as well as born, and such wert thou, Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson was very much made, an invention of Edward de Vere. Now if we have a look at these side notes, they still have more to tell us. It really is remarkable. Hebrews, to make his face shine with oil, or more than oil, remember or in heraldic terms is gold, and our side notes of verse 20, or science, conscience. We'll have a look at that side note in a little bit. And if we have a look at the verse referred to on the grave by this falcon, we have Psalms 104 verse 24. O Lord, how manifold are thy works, in wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy riches. And if we refer back to Ecclesiastes 10 verse 20, and curse not the rich. And from the book of falconry, it tells us, but the falcon gentle taketh stand more willingly upon the ground. You remember from Hamlet, our prince, telling us to use all gently. And from the book of St. Albans, for a prince, the hawk assigned is the falcon gentle. And in the book of falconry, it does reference prince a few times. I can't seem to find the author, Malapin, actually. Remember, Hamlet does tell us, things standing thus unknown shall live behind me. For a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter, and indeed it does if we closer inspect this falcon. Now, you'll notice there's this weird the cross thing on the fields behind the falcon, and actually it references this in the Accedence of Armoury. He beareth argent, a cross of 4 queens de ermines. As this is a cross and good armoury, so you shall have all other things born in the like case. Of queens de ermines born in the like case. You also have this escutcheon or shield, which this crafty author has left blank. He beareth lozenge. A lozenge is this shape, and lozenge looks like this. So our field of the falcon shield is a lozenge field. So we can be sure the lozenge shape beneath it is related to this lozenge field. If we also have a look at the attitude of this falcon, that's the positioning, you will find it's regardant. Regardant indicates an animal with its head turned backward, as if looking over its shoulder, making the heads to sinister direction. For it is a great fault in a heorot to be over hasty in blazon. I know what is meant by this bend, sinister. What is your opinion thereof? He that beareth it is a bastard. A bastard, quod you? I never taught you that. Who that learned you so to term it did give you wrong instructions. Count it therefore an error of arms, the which, with as much speed as you may, I would you forget it. And we also have a few bastard references within the book of falconry, which do signify in the French tongue kindly and no bastard born. The true and right eagle, and you'll see Stellaris at the bottom of the page, and you can remember back to O rare, good, 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 I thank my stars for it. And therefore those only kind shall be the subject of my book, and not those base, bastardly refuse hawks, which are somewhat in name and nothing in deed. And here we have, mighty Prince the Turk, you may guess of the excellency of this gallant pastime, if it be true, as it is vouched by report. Herein I can affirm nothing of myself. So those bastardly refuse hawks, which are somewhat in name and nothing in deed, and I can affirm nothing of myself, but to follow mine author, from whom I collected this kind of hawking. All these kind of eagles have their tercels or male birds, of whom some huge, some middle size, and others some less, which are called bastard eagles, not had in any account. There are 2 sorts of eagles, that is to say, the huge and royal eagle, which is the haggart or passenger, and a less eagle, which is the base and bastard eagle. A little hawk and a large tercel is ever best, and the haggart is a larger hawk than the falcon gentle. So our falcon gentle here is saying is the bastard hawk. And from King Lear, now gods, stand up for bastards. But where hence soever the name is derived, that is most assured that all other birds of prey, the falcon is the most excellent and the very prince of all other hawks, both for her goodness of wing and great hardiness and courage. Now, in the life and death of King John, or just King John, it just so happens we have a character of the Bastard of Falconbridge, otherwise known as Philip Falconbridge. Philip, your faithful subject, I, a gentleman, born in Northamptonshire and eldest son, as I suppose, to Robert Falconbridge. King John later asked, what is thy name? Bastard of Falconbridge, Philip, my liege, so is my name begun, Philip, good old Sir Robert's wife's eldest son. Now in my video, Who's in the Corner, I suggest to you that Edward de Vere's real father is Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, the Queen's chief suitor who proposed to her and had his bedchambers next door to her. You remember this? Oh, rare, good. I thank my stars for it. Well, it just so happens that the Bastard of Falconbridge says, now, you stars that move in your right spheres, where be your powers? Show now your mended faith, and instantly return with me again, to push destruction and perpetual shame out of the weak door of our fainting land. Straight let us seek, or straight we shall be sought. The dolphin rages at our very heels, and you'll remember from the front of the Minerva Britannia, printed in Shoe Lane at the sign of the Falcon, printed in Shoe Lane, rages at our very heels. And at the end of King John, we have a character called Hen. The Bastard says, Oh, let us pay the time but needful woe, since it hath been beforehand with our griefs. This England never did, nor never shall lie at the proud foot of a conqueror, but when it first did help to wound itself. Now these her princes are come home again. Come, the three corners of the world in arms, and we shall shock them. Naught shall make us rue, if England to itself do rest but true. Remember, Vere means true. So, there we go. For a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter. And indeed she does. Edward the Confessor. Now if we have a look at the other side note, or conscience, or con, which means with science, it just so happens at the bottom of the window of Edward Primus we have this, scienza et ingenio, science and cunning. As it says in the Antecedents, the actual full line in the Antecedents is like, as science and cunning is the only good thing of the world, so is ignorance the only evil. And it just also so happens that in Leicester Square Gardens we have this monument here with Mr. Shakespeare pointing to a quote from Twelfth Night, or what you will, there is no darkness but ignorance, and I hope the light is starting to shine through these windows. There's something else wonderful happening in our picture of our Italian falconer there. If we have a closer look at the falcon, you'll notice on its ankles are some bells clutching tightly onto the finger of our falconer. Now it says in the book of Falconry, it shall not be amiss to set two vervels, which are bells, you'll notice the misspelling of two, of silver. The one thereof may have the arms of the king or queen whom you serve, and the other a scutcheon, a shield of your own arms. For as much as when they flee out, if they chance to be taken up, they may the sooner be returned again, and restored to their owners, the which you must then remember too. And if we have a look at our window, you might notice that Edward the Confessor is holding a ring, much like a verval, and actually there's two rings there, which you can see the other in between those keys. And you'll remember those keys, and greatest secrets, though they hidden lie, abroad at last, with swiftest wing they fly. Beautiful. So beautiful. So there we go. Our shrill bells on the hugeness or condition of his hawk. There's our large falcon at the top of that window. When your falcon thus made and manned by your Italian falconer, who is Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, who was often called the Italian Earl for his love of Italy. He spent a year travelling around there. Is it any surprise 13 or 14 of Shakespeare's plays, or Edward de Vere's plays, are set in Italy? So here's our two Westminster windows with the crowned E background. Now there's actually something magical happening with this E. You'll notice that one of them is actually a key, but as you follow this around the circular border, you'll notice at the top, the E on its side becomes a skull. And just like with our funerary monument in Holy Trinity Church, Stratford-upon-Avon, we have a black skull right at the top. Here we have a golden skull. And this is the finis colonat opus, the end that crowns the work, or the crown that ends the work. Magnificent. From The Winter's Tale, Act 4, Scene 3, I bless the time when my good falcon made her flight across thy father's ground. And maybe this falcon, hopefully, will have a flight to where our fowl has been sprung and catch her prey. So, this was part 3. In part 4, we're going to minister some strange, untested medicines, inspect some curious diseases, redefine the first 3 sonnets, and take some swift revenge. Thank you very much, and I'll see you then.